Welcome to Class with Skeul, where Black American history, news, and real issues are taught with clarity, structure, and purpose. This is not surface-level content. This is a timeline, a record, a correction. Every episode is built to teach what was done, what was fought for, and what was taken. From revolts to wars, from policy to resistance, we break it down so it can be understood, remembered, and never rewritten. Because history that isn't taught clearly can be distorted, and history that is distorted can be used against the people it belongs to. Here, we focus on accuracy, on connection, on truth. Not just to inform, but to preserve. Not just to explain, but to expose. Because this isn't just about the past. It's about understanding the present and recognizing what continues. Each video is part of a larger structure, so nothing is isolated and nothing is forgotten. Stay focused, stay aware, stay connected. Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and shew my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Isaiah 58:1.
Episode 9, Black Soldiers and Turning the Tide. Part 1, Entering the Fight. By 1863, the Civil War had changed. With the Emancipation Proclamation in effect, black men were now officially allowed to enlist in the Union Army and Navy. What had once been denied was now necessary. And they stepped forward, not in small numbers, but in force. Over 180,000 black men would serve in the Union Army, with thousands more in the Navy. They came from different backgrounds, some born free, many formerly enslaved, others escaping directly from plantations and entering Union lines. But they all understood what this moment meant. This was not just a war for territory. This was a fight that would determine freedom. Units were formed under the designation of United States Colored Troops. Training camps were established, structures were built, but conditions were not equal. Black soldiers were often paid less than white soldiers. They were given harder labor assignments, and many officers doubted their ability in combat. They were entering the war, but not on equal terms. Still, they stayed, because participation was not optional. It was strategic. To fight was to prove capability, to prove value, to secure a place in what came after the war. One of the most well-known units to emerge during this time was the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. Composed of black soldiers and led by white officers, the 54th became a symbol of what black troops were capable of. In July 1863, they were sent into one of the most dangerous assaults of the war against Fort Wagner in South Carolina. The attack was intense. The position was heavily defended, and the losses were high. But the impact went beyond the outcome. They fought with discipline, with coordination, with resolve. And they proved something that could no longer be denied. They could fight.
If you've made it this far, you're not just watching. You're following Black American warrior history in its full timeline. On Class with Skeul, every episode connects, showing resistance, strategy, and power across generations. If you're tapped in, support the channel. Hit like so more people see this. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Turn on the notification bell so you're there when it drops. And share this with someone who needs the full story, not just pieces. This isn't random content. It's a structured history. Stay locked in. The next episode goes deeper.
Part 2, Proving Power on the Battlefield. After Fort Wagner, the role of black soldiers expanded. Doubt began to shift. Not completely, but enough, because performance in battle creates evidence, and evidence changes decisions. Black regiments continued to serve across multiple fronts. They guarded supply lines, built fortifications, and engaged in combat operations. In many cases, they were placed in difficult positions, but they adapted. They learned quickly, they executed orders, and they contributed to Union success. At the same time, the risks they faced were different. If captured by Confederate forces, black soldiers were not treated as prisoners of war. Many were executed or forced back into slavery. They knew this, and they fought anyway. That reality added weight to every decision. Because this was not just war. It was survival. It was identity. It was future. As the war moved into its final years, the presence of black soldiers became more central to Union operations. Their numbers, discipline, and contribution helped strengthen the Union's position. They were no longer being questioned in the same way. They were being used, and their impact was measurable. By 1865, as Union forces pushed toward victory, black soldiers had helped shift the balance. Not alone, but significantly. Their participation had strengthened the Army, expanded its reach, and reinforced its purpose. Because by this point, the war was clearly tied to the end of slavery. When the Union won, the system that had defined generations would collapse. And black soldiers had played a role in that outcome. Not on the sidelines, not as support alone, but as active participants in the fight. The Civil War would come to an end, but the struggle would not. Because freedom, once established, would have to be defended in a different way. The next phase was coming: Reconstruction, and a new kind of battlefield.
If you made it to the end, stay tapped in. Like this video so it reaches more people. Subscribe to Class with Skeul for the full timeline. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Drop a comment. What stood out, what should be added, and what you want covered next.